Apparently, Pete Carroll's and John Spytek's jobs are safe, according to Mark Davis. This is no surprise to me, even though I expressed a lot of doubt in Carroll's future in my previous episode. I think we all knew that Mark wouldn't move on from Carroll so quickly. That's not saying he doesn't deserve it. I still stand by what I said, where I'm not sure exactly what the end game is with Carroll. Obviously, the overall end game is just win. But in the previous episode, I brought up the fact that the future remains unclear, even if Carroll magically turns things around in a hurry. It's simply a matter of how many years of sharpness and productivity does Carroll have left. At minimum, it's going to be a big task to transfer Carroll's winning culture to a new coaching regime, assuming and hoping that Carroll can establish such a culture in the future. So, if it's not happening quickly under Carroll, how many years of forgiveness and patience can we give him? At an NFL league meeting, Mark Davis said, "I was apologized to by some people in the organization. I told them I'm not looking for apologies, I'm looking for answers," end quote. I like this response by Mark, but my issue is this. The answers that this regime's had so far have been very puzzling. I mentioned it last episode. The decisions to stand pat on our O-line and secondary during the offseason, especially letting valuable depth walk with little to no protest, are fireable offenses in my opinion. When us lowly fans are more correct than the millionaire coaches and evaluators about our team's area of needs, you have an absurd situation on your hands. Our O-line is terrible. Our secondary is abysmal. So is that Spytek's doing or Carroll's? Either way, it doesn't give me much confidence in our future with these decision makers at the helm. The only way it makes sense is if Carroll quietly wanted to strip this team of all veterans who wanted to depart and start totally at ground zero with his compete philosophy, using the remaining guys that we had after all of the departures in the offseason. But even if that's the case, how do you explain his undying loyalty to an obviously failing Geno Smith? How do you explain Carroll keeping Kai Blue Kelly out there? How do you explain all the funny business with JPJ? I think the frustration here is that we Raider fans don't see the vision. It's not clear at all. At minimum, it seems highly inconsistent, whatever the vision is. Davis went on to say, quote, "You have to have faith in the people that you hired." And I do. You've got to give them a chance to do the job, end quote. Again, I like this response. But hasn't Carroll had time to do the job? I use a different measuring stick with Carroll because of his Hall of Fame caliber. How did he get our O-line situation so wrong? How did he get the secondary situation so wrong? How could he have been so wrong regarding Geno? And paying Geno what they decided to pay Geno. I get that no one's perfect, but these whiffs have been monumentally bad. And our teams looked entirely uncompetitive in 3 games out of 6. Out of 7. We got killed in Washington, Indianapolis, and Kansas City. And in 2 winnable games against the Chargers and Bears, Carroll's biggest decision, Geno Smith, cost us both of those games. I'm just so frustrated. Why is it that our organization can never seem to just get plain old lucky? It seems like we're always on a mountain when we stumble. I'm sick of the excuses. Raider Nation has been patient for 2 decades now. Regarding the ugly loss to the Chiefs, Davis said he was, quote, "not happy." He said it was a really, really, really bad day. He said, quote, "You start questioning the players, you start questioning the coaching." He said, "You start questioning everything." But then he followed it up saying, "I had faith in the leadership that I hired," end quote. And here's where there's a fatal difference between Mark and his legendary father, Al Davis. Just a tragic difference. Mark isn't a football mind. Although executive leadership requires delegation, and I appreciate Mark Davis's ability to delegate. That was something that Al Davis was always criticized for, that he micromanaged things too much. But anyways, although executive leadership does require delegation, team owners still have to have the capacity to know what they're watching and therefore be able to make decisive executive decisions based on it. That performance against the Chiefs should have at least gotten Patrick Graham fired. PG's scheme is pathetically bad, and it seldom stops good offenses or even halfway competent ones, for that matter. And PG's been one of the constants in this team's poor results during recent years. I get that we're all frustrated with Chip Kelly, but it's his first year, and the guy has close to zero talent on the O-line. His best receiver is Jacoby Myers, who, although hardworking and productive, is not a number one receiver on many other rosters. Plus, his quarterback, Geno Smith, he's arguably one of the worst quarterbacks in the league this year. Graham's secondaries have always seemed to be overly soft, his schemes, regardless of our talent level. He dials up a lot of consistent pressure, but it often feels like a kid playing Madden for the first time, just calling all-out blitzes every play. His scheme gets regularly picked apart by competent and even more than competent top-tier quarterbacks who know exactly how to deal with pressure. They take a deep breath, they make the reads, and they identify the inevitably open wide receivers in our secondary thanks to all the pressure that's coming their way. I don't care how inept our offense was in KC. That performance was unforgivable by our defense. Al Davis would have left Patrick Graham in Kansas City. That performance in KC deserves zero patience. It was the absolute opposite of commitment to excellence. KC receivers were playing with our defenders. KC receivers were so wide open, it looked like Mahomes was practicing. Their running backs trucked our defenders and carried them for multiple yards on multiple plays. Completely inexcusable. Al would have seen that and immediately called out Patrick Graham. Anyways, Mark Davis ended by saying, quote, "You always question, but as I did with the Aces, I had faith in the leadership, just as I have faith in the people that I hired here as the head coach and general manager. And I'm going to let them do their job, and let's see what the results are," end quote. Well, Mark, the results so far have been horrendous. This is the worst-looking Raiders team I think I've seen in 10 years. This team played with more heart under Josh McDaniels, for heaven's sake. If Carroll does get to finish this season and stick it out to next year, his leash should be extremely short if we don't immediately come out swinging and winning out of the gates to start the 2026 season.